One question at a celebration shifts the tone. You're watching echoes of family. Let's rewind to that moment.
Your sister's housewarming was so lovely, Mom smiled. When are you going to catch up? I set down my glass. I hosted mine last year. You just weren't on the guest list. Her fork froze midair. Salmon slipped, then held. Jessica's wine paused at her lips. Dave looked up from his phone, finally. The room swallowed its music. I'd rehearsed that line for years. Not for revenge. For oxygen. I'm Claudia. For 2 decades, I was the quiet comparison. Invisible until needed. Seen only when I reflected Jessica's shine. They measured love by spectacle. I learned to measure mine by peace. Tonight wasn't an outburst. It was a boundary said aloud. A door closing with a soft click. Only I could hear. They wanted me to catch up. I came to end the race. It started long before that dinner. Before the fork froze. Before I learned silence could hurt more than words. I was 12 when Mom remarried. Jessica was 14. Already radiant, already adored. Robert, my new stepfather, called her kiddo. He bought her a silver bracelet the week he moved in. He called me quiet one. Like it was both compliment and diagnosis. Jessica was sunshine. I was shadow. At school, teachers praised her charm. At home, Mom bragged about her grades and her looks. When relatives asked about me, Mom smiled. She's figuring things out. I learned to disappear politely. To listen. To nod. To swallow things that wanted to be said. Jessica got the loud kind of love. Mine came in expectations, never praise. When she went to college, the house went silent. I thought maybe I'd finally be seen. But every call, every visit, Mom only talked about Jessica's new job, her fiancé, her life. Sometimes I'd wait for her to ask about mine. She never did. And the silence stretched, turning from oversight to ritual. I became the ghost who answered politely. I worked 2 part-time jobs. Took community classes. Nobody asked how I was holding up. One Christmas, Jessica flew home wearing a designer coat. Mom whispered to me, "You should learn from your sister. Look how she carries herself." I'd been the one paying half the rent by then. Still, I smiled. Still, I said nothing. Sometimes I'd stare at my reflection, trying to see what they couldn't. Was I really that forgettable? Was quiet the same as unworthy? Each question left a bruise that never healed. Years later, when Jessica got married, Mom said, "Don't feel bad, honey. Some people just bloom later." I smiled again. But inside, something started to rot. They didn't see it then. But every quiet girl keeps receipts. Not on paper, but under her ribs. After years of trying to earn applause, I learned to stop performing. It didn't happen all at once. It began on a Tuesday morning, in the cramped office of a local accounting firm. I was 24, sorting invoices for people who never remembered my name. I remember staring at the numbers on a spreadsheet and thinking, I understand this. Numbers made sense. They added up. They never lied to me. People did. Love did. But numbers? They were honest. That day, I stayed after work and watched tutorials on bookkeeping software until midnight. A month later, I quit my job and took a risk. Freelance bookkeeping for small businesses. No one believed it would work. Mom said, "That's not a real career." Jessica laughed. "You run a business? You hate people." Maybe I did. Or maybe I just hated the wrong kind. The first client was a cafe owner who cried when I fixed her taxes. She paid me in cash and gratitude. The second client came from her referral. By the end of that year, I had 10. I wasn't rich, but for the first time, I could breathe. I stopped explaining my choices, stopped trying to impress anyone. Silence used to be my cage. Now it was my strategy. Then came David. We met at a fundraiser I was managing. He was charming in a quiet way. A pediatric surgeon who smelled like soap and exhaustion. He listened when I spoke, really listened. On our 3rd date, I told him about my family, the comparisons, the small humiliations. He didn't interrupt or fix it. He just said, "You deserved better." No one had ever said that out loud. A year later, we bought a house. Not a mansion. Not a competition. A 1920s craftsman with creaky floors. And a backyard that smelled like lavender. When friends asked why I didn't tell my family, I said, because I wanted one night, where happiness didn't need defending. We strung lights through the garden, set tables on the patio, laughed with people who actually knew me. Music floated through warm air. Laughter spilled into the street. Someone toasted to love that didn't need proving. And for a moment, I forgot every dinner where I'd felt small. I wasn't the quiet daughter anymore. I was the woman who built her own noise, the kind that sounded like joy. When the last guest left, I stood barefoot in the kitchen, hands still smelling of wine and rosemary. The house hummed softly, alive with peace. For once, the silence didn't ache. It glowed. It was our housewarming, the one Mom never knew existed. And for the first time, I looked around and realized I wasn't missing family. I was building one. Peace wasn't quiet anymore. It was alive, and it had my name on the deed. Peace lasted exactly 6 months. It ended with one phone call. "Claudia," Mom said, her voice honey-sweet and urgent. "Your sister bought a new house. You have to come to the housewarming." I almost laughed. Of course Jessica did. Of course there would be a party. And of course, I'd be the invisible guest of honor, again. "I'll think about it," I said. Her tone sharpened. "Don't be dramatic. Jessica really wants you there." Translation: she wants an audience. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the window. Same eyes, same mouth, but a different woman than the one they used to dismiss. David found me standing there, phone still in hand. "You look like you just bit into something sour," he said. "Mom wants us to go to Jessica's housewarming." He raised an eyebrow. "Do you want to?" "I don't know." I looked at him, my anchor, the life I'd built from the ground up. Part of me wanted to decline, but another part, the small bruised girl inside, wanted them to see what I'd become. So we went. Jessica's house was enormous. White marble, gray furniture, and not a speck of warmth anywhere. 50 people filled the space, all perfectly styled for Instagram. Jessica glowed under the lights, wearing a designer dress that whispered wealth and screamed desperation. She hugged me with the practiced grace of someone who knew how cameras worked. "Claudia, you made it!" Her tone was light, rehearsed. The scent of expensive perfume and tension hung between us. Mom arrived minutes later, beaming as if she'd built the house herself. She introduced us to strangers, as Jessica's sister and her husband, never once saying my name. David noticed. His hand found mine under the table. He squeezed once, a silent reminder. You don't need their validation anymore. But when Jessica gave her grand tour, I felt that old sting. Each room was bigger, flashier, filled with things but empty of joy. "This is our dream kitchen," she said proudly. "It's probably bigger than your whole house." 3 years ago, that would have gutted me. Now I just smiled. "It's beautiful, Jess." "Really?" Her smile faltered, just slightly. For the first time, she didn't know where to aim her superiority. Later that night, I caught my reflection in one of her spotless mirrors. Same face, new piece. She had marble counters. I had freedom. And for the first time, I realized those weren't the same thing. I left the party feeling lighter than I'd arrived. Not because they finally saw my worth, but because I no longer needed them to. The moment I stopped wanting their approval was the moment I became untouchable. The peace didn't last long. It never does with my family. The call came on a Thursday. I was reviewing a client's report when Mom's name flashed. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Claudia, sweetheart," she began softly. "I didn't want you to hear this from someone else. Jessica's getting divorced." I said nothing for a moment. 1,000 memories flooded back. The house, the marble, the show. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said finally. "And I meant it. She's having a really hard time," Mom continued quickly. "The mortgage is huge. Mike's being difficult about the settlement. She might lose the house." Then came the pause. "The hook. I was hoping you could help her out. Just until she gets back on her feet." I stared at the wall. The room felt smaller, the air too thin. "Mom," I said slowly, "you remember when I was in community college? You told me to work harder instead of expecting help." "That was different," she said quickly. "You didn't have children or a mortgage. Jessica's situation is self-inflicted," I cut in. "She bought a house she couldn't afford to impress people who don't even like her." "Claudia," she snapped. "Family helps family." I almost laughed. "Really? Because for 30 years, family meant me helping all of you." The silence that followed was heavy, the sound of truth hitting a wall. That night I told David. He listened quietly, fingers interlocked. "So," he said, "your sister spent herself into debt, and your mom wants you to fix it?" "That's about right." "And what if you say no?" "They'll hate me." He shrugged. "Then they'll just have to hate you." I wanted to believe it was that simple. But family guilt runs deep, especially when you're trained to earn love through sacrifice. 2 days later, Jessica called. Her voice cracked. "I can't believe you're refusing to help me. I'm your sister." "I'm not refusing to help you," I said evenly. "I'm refusing to enable you. So you'd let me lose my house just to make a point? I'd let you learn what responsibility feels like." She hung up. For weeks, my phone buzzed nonstop. Mom, Dave, guilt in every message. What happened to compassion? We didn't raise you to be this cold. But one message I saved, from David. It said simply, proud of you. Boundaries aren't cold. They're freedom. I didn't feel guilty. For once, I felt strong. Maybe peace isn't quiet. Maybe it's finally saying no. The storm had passed. And for once, I didn't feel empty. I felt free. She thought losing the house would break her, but it set her free. Months passed. The silence that followed felt strange at first. After years of chaos, quiet can sound like guilt. But slowly, it started to feel like peace. Jessica sold the house. She moved into a small apartment downtown. For the first time, her life looked real, not rehearsed. She got a job she actually liked. She learned to cook. She started therapy. And maybe for the first time, she learned how to live without pretending. Mom still calls sometimes. The messages are polite now, careful. Like she's talking to a stranger she doesn't want to offend. I don't blame her. I just stopped needing her to understand me. David says I'm lighter lately. He's right. I wake up without the weight of other people's needs. I buy flowers for myself now. I spend weekends walking through our garden. Coffee in hand, sunlight on my face. For the first time in my life, I'm not trying to earn love. I'm just living it. I used to think strength meant forgiveness. Now I think it means boundaries. It means choosing peace over guilt, clarity over chaos, and self-respect over approval. If you've ever been made to feel like love has to be earned, trust me, it doesn't. You don't owe anyone the version of you that keeps them comfortable. You owe yourself the version that finally feels free, because peace isn't what they give you. It's what you claim when you stop asking. Sometimes peace doesn't come after forgiveness. It comes after walking away. If you've ever had to choose yourself over family expectations, you're not alone. Tell me, what did peace look like for you?